Welcome back to Smash. This is episode 1.2, second part to our premiere episode where we sit down at Attributive Martial Art in Canton with Sifu David and Simo Lynda Hatch, talking about their role in the Michigan martial art community. If you really like to kind of nerd out about details with martial art, we get into it with this one a little bit, especially this first half of this episode. We talk a lot about the introduction that David and Lynda had into the Thai boxing community via the Inosanto JKD family. Kind of have a little bit of compare and contrast between Thai boxing and Savate, French Savate kickboxing, and we talk a little bit about some of the form and function of Savate as well. We also get some context and background for David Hatch's entrance into the Balintawak, Filipino martial art of Balintawak, close-range stick fighting, which I thought was kind of fascinating, kind of interesting, fun little story, so you can get that. Then the best part was that we also, sorry, Sifu David, but the best part was that we also got Lynda Hatch to come onto camera with us and to field a few questions from me and just chat a little bit, which was such a pleasure. We kind of had to twist her arm as she was willing finally to come out and join us. This meant that I had the opportunity to ask Simo Lynda a little bit about some of the challenges that come from, as she's hearing impaired, from handling different disabilities as a martial artist, and what arts to choose or things to keep in mind as an instructor or as a student when that's a factor that's in play. And to me, one of the results was just the simple realization, and I talk a little bit about it in the interview, that everybody is coming to this art with their own unique set of talents and challenges, and that there's a martial art out there for everybody, there's an instructor out there for everybody, and that this is a really inclusive, cool thing that we all get to be a part of, and it's just about finding what works for you. If you've not seen episode 1, you don't have to, but I do think you do yourself a service to watch that one first. We just jump right into it, this one, without much in the way of introduction or context. I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to do it, and David and Lynda, I very much appreciate that opportunity. Next weekend, May 18th and 19th, 2019, is the Dan Inosanto Seminar here in the state of Michigan, in the Metro Detroit area. It's the only Inosanto Seminar that we have in the state, and there's not very many others throughout the year that are really in that close of proximity. So it's an awesome opportunity to train with who, in my opinion, is the most influential martial art teacher of the 20th century. You know, he just never ceases to amaze. So if you're in the Detroit area, join us for the seminar May 18th and 19th with Guru Dan Inosanto. It'll be in Canton, Michigan. I'll put a link in the show notes for all the information you need to come up and get registered, or you can just show up at the event on the day, pay at the door. Make sure you bring exact change cash with you, right? So just stop at any gas station on the way, hit the ATM, pull a few bills out, off you go. But do pay cash at the door if you're able. They won't be set up for personal checks or credit cards, so just FYI on that. But we will see you on the mat May 18th and 19th as Attributive Martial Art. David and Lynda Hatch in this interview host Guru Dan Inosanto for us, and the awesome, best community event that we do all year, hands down, no doubt about it. So I hope you enjoy this interview. Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the mat.
So that's when you can tell that person's really learning to be a true martial artist.
The classes that you do here in your home school, are they open to the public? Are they by appointment only? How does that
They're
work
open to the public.
Okay.
And I do have private lessons.
Okay.
People want to apply for that too. And I get a lot of privates.
Okay.
Surprisingly. And mainly I think because there's some people that work at night and they can't come to class.
Right.
They like to come to the privates, they want more. And some people that come for classes will come for privates because they want more detailed information.
Right. What kind of classes are you teaching currently?
Oh, I'm teaching all of them.
Yeah.
The Muay Thai, the Silat, the Kali, the Jun Fan. The Jun Fan, and I have a JKD aerobics, I call it, because it's a mixture to music, all the different martial art moves.
Okay. You know, it's like a fitness class.
Yeah, it's a fitness type thing.
Okay.
Put you into it. So that one and the Muay Thai gives you a lot more of the workout.
Okay.
The kickboxing does too, and I mix that. What we learned in the karate schools, and also what we learned through Guru Dan.
Okay.
And the Savate, because we mix Savate, we're a little bit, we got some ranking in the Savate level
okay.
too. So, and I like the Savate because it really teaches you, the body language and the form, to get the form down. So that's what I really like about the Savate. And, you can do hard kicking, but what's neat about the Savate, because it's a shoe art, when you hit with that tip of the shoe, I mean, I had one guy I'm sparring with, and every kick I'm throwing hard, he could avoid it. So we're just moving around, and I just went, pop! And it caught the guy in the solar plexus, and he stands there and he's going, oh, that was good.
Yeah, right.
So the stuff works.
Yeah, sure.
You just got to know where to put it in.
Yeah. And so you mentioned like the sort of body language and the body mechanics of Savate to me is so distinct, right? It's so unique. And you see the hand stretching behind. And could you talk a little bit about why I think it's, if you know what Savate looks like, you know it when you see it. Is there a distinct reason? Is it acting as a counterbalance or?
Oh, you mean for the motion?
Yeah, for the motion itself.
Yeah, a lot of that is counterbalancing.
Okay.
Even Muay Thai, when Ajahn Chai wants us to throw let's say in this case, the left kick or the right kick, the right hand moves up. And that's part of getting the hip motion into it.
Okay.
Where Savate is sort of the balance. You're trying to get the balance. The old time Savate is when the hand comes out.
Okay.
Later, you're still in position.
Okay.
And punching and stuff.
So like a lot of arts, especially competitive ones, there has been an evolution from like a traditional method to a more contemporary competitive one. Okay.
Right. And their idea is they're sort of boxing with their feet.
Right.
So your side kicks, the sachet, is just pop, hit like that. Boom,
Okay.
boom, so you can get back and moving again.
Yeah.
Because you want to do more than one hit a lot of times with your foot.
Okay.
And that's what I like too, because it's showing you combinations.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's teaching you distancing and everything. Very good at that.
So you're also an Ajahn, right? In the WTBA, so in Muay Thai and the Thai Boxing Association. Is Lynda as well?
Yes, Lynda
Okay.
is too.
And so could you talk a little bit about your initial experiences with Thai boxing and how that's influenced you if before you were a karate and then a Kali JKD person? We see a lot of people, especially of your generation, that first got access, some of the first people in the States to get access to Thai boxing, really, and how that sort of changed your perspective on martial art, if at all.
Well, the Thai boxing, we gravitated to it easy because we had hard fighting in our karate school.
Okay.
But we just didn't have the correct mechanics for hitting with the shin, because everything was hitting with the foot.
Right.
So that plus the elbow work, I really like that. We got exposed to it. We started attending. It was a combination Guru Dan and Ajahn Chai in Chicago.
Okay.
And boy, those are heavy workouts.
Yeah, I bet.
Heavy. But we're used to
When
those
was
heavy
that? Would you go?
workouts. God, that would be it was in the 80s,
Was that,
80s and 90s
where was that?
in Chicago.
It was at the
Fred
Dagoberg's? Okay.
Yeah, right, upstairs there. It was funny because it was so packed for Guru Dan.
Yeah.
And it came time for Ajahn Chai, half the people were gone.
Just scurrying away.
So-
Evacuate! Everyone to the boats!
But he started to mellow out, and Lynda, she'd seen Ajahn Chai, and she didn't like him at first because he looked so mean, and
You know it. You know it.
so I said, no, he's okay. And
Right.
eventually, once you talk with him and stuff, you go, oh, he's not so bad.
Sure. Well, and especially it's interesting with individuals and personalities like his, that when they're on the mat teaching and then when they're off the mat talking, that's not always the same person,
Right, it's a different person.
Yeah,
altogether.
which is always a valuable thing to keep in mind, especially if you're a beginner student. But it's also a fascinating insight into a teaching style, especially a coaching style, where he'll say like, "I'll do anything to make you learn." That kind of perspective, where it's like, no, this might be a hard road for you, but it doesn't mean that that's always a hard guy,
Right.
So it was about mid-'80s. We had a seminar. What did you think of the overall sort of fitness component that it demanded of practitioners?
Yeah, it's fantastic fitness. I mean, you really have to train for it.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't test, and Guru, at one time, all the instructors under Guru had to test the Muay Thai first level test,
Okay.
which is at 2 3-minute rounds.
Okay.
Right. With a fresh feeder, and they'd hit you. So we're like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to do that, you know, it looks too rough." But Guru Dan would always come, "Dave, you should get into it. Just think, you'd be the first person in the 40s to do the test." And I'm thinking, oh, but he was so nice about it.
Yeah.
You know. At that time, the requirement was gone. You didn't have to anymore. But he still wanted you to do it.
Right.
You know? So I thought, okay, I'll do it. And my student, Chris and Jerry, both of us trained together.
Okay.
And we both tested together for
Wow.
that. And it was a gruesome test. And Ajahn Chai just says, "I just want to see if you had the heart, sir." Which I did. He made me do, you know, you have to have 60 kicks and 35 knees.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I ended up with 90-some kicks in the first round.
Yeah.
And 45 knees or something.
Okay.
Like that. And I thought, wow, I thought this is harder.
Yeah, that's round one.
And I'm going, oh, what's wrong here, you know? But I was in shape for it because we trained. We trained hard. We'd do 3 to 4 to 5 rounds at home here just to get used to that.
Right.
You know, and we trained hard. We had a setup of how to block and kick, how to move away and kick, and how to parry and kick. And a lot of that stuff we did. And then we even had people take the pads and hit us with the pads. You know, so we get used to that feeling of being hit. And so we did not want to get hurt. And Ajahn Chai did say, you don't want to stand there and get clobbered.
Right.
You know, get your shots in, get out.
Okay.
You know, so we'd always never go more than 2 kicks, maybe 3 and out. So when a feeder tries to kick you again, you're out of there.
Okay.
So, and a lot of faking. Because, you know, to try to get the guy's head and do your knees,
right.
they won't let you do that.
Right.
They just hit
Yeah,
you.
because all those knees are clinched knees.
Yeah, they're all clinched.
Right,
That's all that counted. So we'd fake the kick, and they'd go like that, and we'd jump in.
Cool.
It worked good for Lynda when she tested. She tested the year after I did.
Okay.
We were in our late 40s, and we tested. I was 49, she was 48.
So that was like 4 years ago, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 4 years ago. But she went in against this guy, Oscar, in Ohio. He's a big guy, tough guy. And Linda's, you know, sparring, and she faked him, got in, and she held him. And he couldn't get her off.
Nice.
He's trying to get her off. He finally picked her up and threw her into the
Wow.
audience.
Wow.
And then Ajahn says, okay, that's enough, no more knees.
Yeah, right.
But she did real well. Oscar saying, God, I never had a woman so rough, and she's so tough. And she is, you know, she's tough, and she's really nice, you know.
Well, and it's good logic too of, you know, once you get in there and grab hold, you don't have to try that again.
When Ajahn Chai says to go like this on the head, that's what she did.
Yeah,
you know?
that's great. So if you could share with us a little bit about your journey from there into Balintawak, because especially for the state of Michigan, but you know, maybe you can expand further for me. You and Lynda train in, teach, and represent a specific Balintawak organization and style. And so if you could just kind of give us a little bit of how that started for you and what that's about.
Sure. Back in '94, I was picking Guru up from the airport to come for a seminar with us. Excuse me. And he says, Dave, I want you to train with Ted Bullitt. I go, oh, okay. So I thought he wanted me to come to California to train with him. And I says, oh, well, when should I come out there to train? He says, no, he's here in Michigan. You know? And I says, well, where? He says, oh, he's somewhere in Detroit. You'll find him. I go, well, you're right. And he says, I want you to, he's got Balintawak. And I says, what? Balintawak? You know? And he says, no, it's Balintawak. And he says, it'll really enhance your stick work. So I said, hey, yeah, anything to help me out.
And for the uninitiated, Balintawak is, I mean, not to minimize it too much, but stick trapping, close range stick fighting.
Right. It's an impact system.
Okay.
And there's no slashing in it. It's all impact. And a lot of left hand maneuverability, management, control, trapping, and all that. Yeah, plus you can hit and push and all that.
Is it kind of like a dual system, like you've got a whole strategy with one and then with the stick on the other, or are they integrated pretty naturally? Okay.
That's one of the big things Mano Ted always said to me. He said, Dave, the 2 attributes he's really working us on is timing and coordination.
Okay.
When do you throw the strike and the trap, and how do you coordinate the two?
Okay.
You know, it's really important. It's so close to Wing Chun.
Yeah, it's interesting.
You know? And it was funny because Ted didn't know what I meant. He's heard of Wing Chun, but he didn't realize he's actually teaching.
Yeah.
Slightly different, but it's just like Wing Chun with a stick.
Is there some center line, even if it's in opposition to it? Is that still a factor?
There is center line there, because if your hand's too far out here, you're going to have trouble trying to trap.
Right,
And it could get hit. So
just for
usually
the
within
spatial
here.
awareness and
Yes.
everything. Yeah, right.
And to be able to get in quickly.
Right.
You know, when he would go to advanced methods with me, he was quickly snatching my stick or trapped my stick or pulled my stick. And when he'd pull it, then he'd hit. And by the time I'd come out, he was gone. His hand was off of it and everything. I'm like, well,
What happened here?
what happened here? One time he had my stick in control, and I thought, I'll block this. But then he moved my stick over, hit me on the other side. And I go, how'd you do that? And it was like one of my students called it the phantom hand.
Yeah, right.
Because
right.
you felt some, but then it's not there.
That's what I was
It is
thinking. It's
there.
like they suddenly he's growing 4, like
Yeah,
2 extra
some
limbs or
extra limbs
something.
and
Yeah.
stuff.
So how did you find him? And it sounds almost mysterious the way that it grows. It's like a classic thing of like, you'll find him, when the universe presents him to you. How did you find him, and what was that like?
After a few months, I was telling my student Chris that I'm trying to look for this guy. If you see him, anyone let me know. Well, he took a Japanese class in college, and in the class, he's telling me there's a guy who does a scream on the class that he was talking to, and so I didn't think nothing of it. But then they talked more, and then Chris calls me up and says, "This guy's doing Balintawak, and he's
Oh, wow.
a student at Ted Bullitt." And I
Yeah.
said, "Oh man, give him a call, So I
So
called
Gurdan
him.
was right. The
Yeah.
universe was about to give him to you. Yeah.
it come about.
How bizarre.
Yeah, and so I called. Actually, Steve called me. Steve Ocho is his name.
Oh, okay.
He called me and told me what you had to do to start up and everything. So I called Ted, and I had to come in there and do an official interview with him. When I brought Lynda with me
This was at his home?
at his home.
Okay.
Went to his house. And I think we talked for an hour and a half or so, 2
Wow.
hours. Lynda
2
says
hours,
2 hours
really?
of talking.
Wow.
And I mean, he was an engineer too at the time he was working. He was a supplier for the automotive companies.
Okay.
So, and we got to talk, and he showed me all the stuff and what he looks for in people, and then we got to talk about martial arts. And finally, Lynda says, "Well, when are you guys going to start training?" And we both look at each other. Okay, next week.
Yeah.
But it was so awkward because it was so different when I was doing it in Inosanto. Everything was slashing because your stick also imitates the sword and a lot of stuff we do with the Inosanto blend. And except for maybe Toledo system, which is a little more impact because of a bigger stick.
Okay.
But this was different. There was no slashing through. And Ted would say, "Dave, we are chopping down the tree. We're not slicing the tree."
Ah, interesting.
So I thought, okay,
Yeah.
that gave me a much better picture
Right.
of what it's like.
Is there a lot of like an emphasis on retraction then as
There's
well as
retraction,
extension?
but the retraction is after the power is out. But there's also a thing
interesting.
called to abort.
Okay.
And abort is a situation where I'm going to hit you and I see something's coming to either block it or your hand's coming. I abort the shot and go another angle.
Okay.
Now, the funny part is it looks just like a fake.
Oh, interesting.
No one will know except you yourself.
Right.
Whether you aborted it or did you fake it to go to another angle.
How long did you train with him?
It's about 11 years, right? I say 10, but then this is, no, it was 11.
11.
So,
Okay.
It was 11 years before he had a stroke.
Okay.
And even after his stroke, he was in his stroke was like 7 years before he passed on.
Oh, wow.
But I'd visit him quite often, show him what the DVDs I'm doing, and because I wanted him to be in the DVDs.
Right.
But that's just when he had the stroke when I was starting it.
Oh, that's too bad.
So he'd review my stuff and everything, him and his wife too. And he'd show me some other little things here and there. But
Right.
his left hand, he couldn't use it, but he'd show me with the stick and stuff. So it was great.
Yeah.
And what really helped me understand Balintawak more was asking him questions about how do I handle this from the Costa system? How do I handle this from the Mako?
Oh, interesting.
And he'd look at, he'd have an answer.
Right.
And if he didn't, the next time I saw him, he had an answer.
So there's that same thing of, I don't know if you said it was Gurdan or I don't remember who you just referenced that it was that said it to you, but of learning boxing because you're going to have to counter boxing.
Right, there's
Right.
Larry
Larry Hartzell, yes, thank you. And now here's that same kind of thing coming through in your Balintawak training of going, well, how do I use this against that, against that, against that, right? So it's cool then to see the way that as martial artists we're able to take lessons along the way and discover ways to apply them down the road and maybe in a different context or in service of a different art, right? So to that end, if all of those things can remain at least relatively true regardless of style or system, Could you define for us, someone with your breadth of experience and exposure to different arts, what you think martial art is or martial artistry is, if it's not an individual style, right? What that through line is?
The through line is your ability to do whatever art you think you can handle. You know, that's why you practice different arts, to see, can I do punching better? Maybe I'm better at elbows. Maybe I can't kick very well. So let me go to an art that helps me more with it. The Panantukan is great because you can still use your knees and stuff, right? The weaponry is good. It took me a while to understand that weaponry can be translated to the empty hand.
Right. Okay.
Because I'm thinking, if I'm doing this, how do I hit somebody like it? And then there's hammer hitting, right? And then you just change maybe an arc strike to a straight strike, like the 3 count. When Guru Dan started showing me all the different ways to do a 3 count, which is boxing as well as destruction, and all of that, and how to catch a kick with a 3 count. And I'm going, holy cow! I didn't realize that's what it is. Yeah. You know, so because we were watching another system that came out with Sinawali, and their claim to fame was we got modern Sinawali and all, and but when they did it with the hands, they were slapping, with hands.
Okay.
And Guru says, see, they don't understand it. They don't understand what the motions really mean. And that woke me up real quick to see how.
So then, like,
so an individual, yes, he's got to find out what's going to work for him. He's got to try these different things.
Right.
And I mean, really try it. Don't just do it for a little bit and then give up on it.
Yeah. Okay. And so that's what I was I'm always interested in asking at what point somebody goes from being, especially in your estimation, I'm really curious to hear your input on this. When a student goes from being a student or a practitioner to being a martial artist, right? And I don't mean like, you know, what does it mean to be a martial artist? A lot of the stock answers are going to be, you know, that you're walking the path of peace and, you know, different sort of like flowery things that we can attach to this. And there's also the ego part of like, well, now I'm a quote unquote martial artist. And those things aside, at what point or what do you think the sort of criteria or differentiation is where somebody is stopped being a hobbyist or what I call it like a martial art tourist and is actually in this thing, right? And it's...
You can tell, like another thing again I learned from Jim Rohn is life caters to deserve, not to need. If someone says, I need this, I need that, well, you got to show me that you're deserving of it. And that goes same when you're teaching a student. They're all going to be needy because they're trying to learn it, right?
Right.
The ones that deserve it, you'll see. You'll see they're going to work at it. They go home, they work at it, they come back next time, they got it. Maybe a little off here or there, but they're still doing it. You know, that desire to make themselves better, not to be a hotshot or nothing, but because they want to improve. And you see, I've got students that come to me. You know, I'm glad I do this. My cholesterol's gone down, and I feel more peppier, you know, when I get up and all that coming from the martial arts. Yeah. You know? So that's when you can tell that person's really learning to be a true martial artist because of his true interest into it.
That sort of passion over it. Yeah.
And the questions they ask, you know, not just flippy questions. What do you do if a guy chokes you and you pass out? You know, well, nothing. You're passed out. But you know, how do I prevent something like that? What should I be aware of? You know, when I'm doing something like this. Yeah. And then with law enforcement, you know, they say, well, you know, we can't use this. What else can I use? You know, because we have a few people in law enforcement, and you do have to watch what you show. However, they still want to know some of the things that you know will save their life. Right. Right. But they'll first
or that they might come up against.
Yeah, right. You know? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you see a higher baseline skill, or would you at least imagine a higher baseline skill from the general population now in this MMA era, as opposed to maybe in the 70s or the 80s or the 60s for that matter, where you had some people were seeking out, it seemed like everything was called jiu-jitsu before my time, but we're seeing out karate or these different styles, and we had sort of a ninjutsu craze that happened in the States. And but now in this MMA era that we've been in for quite some time, and BJJ for that matter, there's so many people that are being introduced to the idea of martial art via Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Do you think that the baseline person walking around that you might come up against for self-defense has an elevated skill set, or that all these trends are just cyclical?
They become cyclical, but now, like you said, the trend, the MMA stuff and the BJJ, because of the grappling aspect of it. There's more people that know grappling.
Yeah. Okay.
And even if they just know a little bit just by watching TV or something,
Right.
or watching a video on YouTube, they're going to know something. They may not have it down pat, but they know a little. Which in a way sort of helps when you're teaching them, if you have to teach them.
Okay.
Because they've seen it and they go, oh yeah, I saw that. And
Yeah, it's not
it
a totally
helps them.
foreign concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it helps them out. But yeah, it does help expose the martial art better. But still people think that MMA is the way to go. And that's
Yeah,
it.
right.
You know? I said, well, it is. It's a great conditioning thing. And it is. You want to get in that ring. But there has to be limitations, obviously. I mean, you
right.
see people getting poked in the ring and in the eye, and you see it stop.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So you know it's going to work in the street. But again, you still want to practice the art so it's safe.
Right.
You know, so you don't hurt one another. Because in Balintawak, you know, we're doing the hip and a lot of hip motion. Oh, a tremendous amount of hip motion to get the shots in. But we had to learn how to use our stick and control it without hitting the person. And I think a lot of the arts like BJJ help you really learn how to use your hips to move around.
Right.
You know, and I think people get attracted to these arts because you're actually using them on somebody. You're not just doing it in the air.
Okay.
You know?
Sure.
So they feel, oh yeah, I can feel I'm doing something.
Right.
You know, or trapping. If people get to understand that, they'll see, yeah, I'm using something there too.
Yeah, that same experience.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And the sticks too. Once they understand, yeah, we're hitting sticks, but somewhere you got to come in and do locking and move and disarm. Disarms are so important.
Yeah.
You know, you can't always get them, but when you flow, and that's the big thing Guru's always after, and that's what I like, and that's why I was so attracted to Guru Rick Fade, because he flow. When I first saw him in '87 at '87 Michigan camp, and he was just flowing. I said, that's the guy I'm going to emulate. You know?
Oh, cool.
And
Wow.
he just got his associate level at the time.
Okay.
You know, so I sent him some video clips of that from way back.
Yeah,
He
that's
was
great. Oh, cool.
But yeah, he moved, and Guru said, he says, I'm not worried about Rick. He says, he's got the flow. He will be able to figure out the moves to do. And I thought about that, and he's right.
Flow
If
first.
you flow,
Yeah.
it'll come out. And if you can't think of it, you watch a few techniques Guru shows you or somebody shows you, and then do the flow and see if you can get that technique.
So is that your general approach to training now, is that it's not just acquiring techniques, it's plugging them into that ability to flow, right?
Yes.
That's sort of the generator for them?
Right.
Okay.
And usually flowing in pattern helps the person at first.
Okay.
Now, when I learned Balintawak, there were no set patterns other than the fundamentals. But when you started play, you call it Kreda as a mixing bowl. So you had to right away figure out what to do, but then we'd stop. If there's a problem, we'd work what he called singles. Keep working on that, keep
okay.
working on that. And then now we go back to the mixing bowl, block, and move.
Right.
And then can I put that in there? Do I recognize it? You know, things
right,
like that.
right. What are your priorities as a teacher now when you're teaching your students? What are the things that you really want to see them start to exhibit, whether it's specific skills, even if it's techniques, but maybe an overarching, you know, just way about them where you're, okay, that's what I'm looking for.
It's a thing we call balance, right?
Okay,
The yin-yang symbol.
okay.
The best way I've seen described yin-yang is when you're pedaling a bicycle. One has to push, one has to release, right? So you got
Oh,
negative
nice.
and positive.
Yeah, that's great.
They've got to work together. So yeah, there's some negative things that happen. You could probably tell the student, oh, you're not doing that right, but you got to show them the positive way, how to improve on it. You know, Rick talks about not saying bad things about other people. And
Right.
that's true, because what happens is we get hung up in there. But if I talk any type of negativity about somebody, it's because I'm teaching as a lesson.
Right.
And I spend a small amount of time explaining what's negative and a large amount of time the positive approach to take to it.
Okay.
You know, it's I learned this from Jerome too. If you got a problem and you only have an hour to solve it, you should spend 5 to 10 minutes discussing the problem. That's negative. But spend the rest of the hour for solutions to the problem.
Wow.
Come up with solutions.
Yeah.
And he said the problem, most people spend the whole hour talking about the
Talk about the
problem.
problem? Yeah,
You
right.
know, it's like,
This is just complaining after about 5-10 minutes, you know.
yeah,
So let's use that example. Let's say then you've got, 45-50 minutes worth of solution mining, Do you think it's better to spend that kind of time in this hypothetical getting as many different solutions on the table as possible? Or is it better to quickly find one and just hammer that thing till you've got it?
you try to fit it to the person.
Okay.
There's a saying, meet people where they're at before you take them where you want them to go.
Okay.
So you find out what they're weak in and what they're good at, and you try to help them in that aspect. Say, well, I got a solution here. Why don't we put that in his training method?
Okay.
Then I see, have they really worked on it?
Right.
You know, when I asked the person, I said, well, how many hours did you spend working this past week on this technique? And I get a little box there, you know, and I'm getting the story.
Yeah.
I said, I'm sorry, the story doesn't fit in this box. I need a number, you know. You know, from 1 to 20 or
Yeah, whatever, yeah. As soon as it starts with, well, you see, like, well, okay.
I don't know.
Say hi to Simo, Lynda. So, can I ask you a question?
Depends.
Okay. Who hits harder? Right?
Who hits harder? Who hits harder?
Really?
But she hurts more.
Yeah, right. That's terrifying because she hits very hard. So, what are your thoughts on martial art being for everybody, right? Regardless of, you know, whether you have hearing impairment or vision impairment, or maybe you're overweight, or you have something wrong with your leg, or, you know, those maybe are challenges to getting good, but do you think that there's maybe one art over another that's better for people that are differently abled? Or, you know, I was just wondering if you'd share.
Yeah, depends
Depends on the person.
on the person, right?
What hit the foot.
Yeah, what their interests are.
Yes,
And
right.
if they're capable to do the interest.
The whole pace.
Yeah, at their own pace. You try to give them something at their own pace,
Take about tips.
Step by step, right?
step by step.
I have to motivate themselves.
Okay.
And I do
Motivate
for them.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You can't do it for them.
Right.
You have to motivate
Motivate
themselves.
yourself, yeah.
For we help, guide, encourage them.
Yeah, help,
Courage,
guide, and
right.
encourage. Help, guide, and
Yeah,
encourage.
and so this is perfect because that's true for everybody, right? Whether you're hearing impaired or you're not, whether you have one leg or two, right? You need encouragement. You need to be self-motivated. You need to find an art that works for you, for your interests, for your body type, right? And so the message is it's all the same. Martial art is accessible, or should be accessible to everybody. And that those, you know, I think what we see culturally as limitations, maybe at the end of the day simply are not. It's just a matter of you, me as individuals trying hard and applying ourselves and overcoming whatever challenges we have as individuals, right? And I just think that's a really great lesson. And of all of the technique that I've learned from you, that's one of the biggest lessons I've gotten, is to be self-motivated and to not have excuses, right? To always keep going, and to see sometimes what feels like a limitation is only an opportunity to learn in a new way, right?
Well, there's a quote, again, using Jim Rohn, but he said, self-esteem primarily comes from engaging in disciplines that lead to value.
Wow, yeah.
So, and that's, you know, a very powerful statement, you know, to work on stuff. And you know, he also has a statement like, success is not just doing extraordinary things. It's doing ordinary things extraordinarily well.
Okay.
And so repetition, you know, they always say repetition is the mother of skill. However, if you do repetitions with the intent of improving each time you do your repetitions, then you'll exceed, you know, high scale.
Right. What would you suggest for a new student watching, either of you or both of you, suggest they look for or think about when choosing a style or a teacher for martial art?
Just pick an art. Find someone you can train with. Train with them for a while so you understand that art. You know, it could be a year, it could be 2 years. And then start looking maybe for another art if this isn't the art you want.
Okay.
Because you could be limited. There might not be a school that you want.
Right.
So people might say, well, I'll go to a boxing club first. And then eventually you'll find somebody that knows Kali.
Right.
And you can learn all the other cool stuff.
Just kind of get into the community a little bit, or get
Right.
into that world.
Just
Yeah.
get into it,
Yeah.
Of course, nowadays you got so much you can see on YouTube. But even then, you don't have everything.
Sure.
I have DVDs out now on the Blintawalk, but it's still not the same. You still got to
Right.
feel it with a person and
Right.
everything. It's an encyclopedia of information. And that's another thing I always do when I teach. I'm looking at knowledge base and performance base
Okay.
when I teach. Knowledge base are just facts and things and how to balance yourself and all that. That's
Right.
knowledge based. And performance doesn't mean you got to fight. Performance just means I want to see you move. I want to see how you
Right.
move, what you do. That's the performance base that we look at. So we teach mostly performance base and put a little knowledge for background. And that's another thing too. When you gather knowledge, try to gather knowledge that's working knowledge, stuff you can actually use. I found one time some person was not crazy about punching. But I said, okay, why don't you just do the finger jab? They got confidence in that. Now they can go in and say, hey, how about just doing a punch?
Oh, cool. Okay.
So they go, oh yeah, and they say, hey, this is the same as doing it. Well, of course it is.
Yeah.
But they can't
Right.
see that yet.
Yeah.
You got to get something that they're going to feel good about
Yeah.
and feel that they accomplished something. Now you can take, that's what I say, remember, meet them where they're at and
Right.
then take them where you want them
Right.
to go.
Right. Sounds like then that main emphasis is just start moving.
Yeah.
Right. Just start.
Yes.
Yeah. Try not to overthink it. Maybe.
Right.
Which has never been my strong suit, so it's good advice for me to hear this. Yeah. And how about you, Simo? What is maybe one or two things to look for when you're picking a teacher?
What that person is looking for.
Find out what the person's
Looking for, right?
What the capable of doing.
and what they're capable of doing.
Okay.
Think it from there.
And take
Yeah,
it from
right.
there.
Is there any arts that you wish you could try or had tried or that have influenced you in some way, even though it's not what you train?
They're all neat. Sistema I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of flaky, but I understand what they're doing. They're trying to just like to flow, get around the force. Don't
Right.
go force to force. Sistema helps you understand the mobility aspect of it.
Okay.
Which is in Kali too.
Sure.
A lot in Kali. And we were talking about Sabat earlier. Sabat has a lot of footwork to move around.
Right.
So you don't get hit.
Yeah.
You can hit
Yeah.
them.
Right.
And make sure you're going at the right angle so they might not be able to reach you, but you can reach them.
Yes, right. So that's sort of like positioning, that like
Right.
tactical positioning, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
But any art, I think, now that I don't know, maybe I'd want to work a little more with Tai Chi just for a relaxing exercise.
Oh, okay.
However, the stuff we do in the Philippine art, that could be Tai Chi too. You can turn that into a Tai
Right.
Chi type.
Yeah,
So-
the first time I took Carenza and slowed it way down, I was having done Tai Chi well before I ever tried Kali. I immediately went, oh, this is that same feeling that I had, right?
Yes.
You're really in your body and you're really kind of
Yes,
owning that
yes.
movement. And everything that you're hiding behind speed is glaringly obvious when you're
Yes,
having to do that and
slow.
nothing is working, right? Yeah. If you had to pick one or two like favorite techniques, or if there's something that really speaks to you, not that are gonna finish every fight or whatever, but that you really enjoy doing, or that are kind of your go-to things that you really love.
I'd have to say combination hitting
Okay.
because it sets the person up. And because a lot of times you punch, they block, you kick, they block. It's just going to be monotonous and then going
Right.
anywhere. So learning how to fake something and then go into the technique, whether
Cool.
it's the kick or punch,
Yeah.
and it works all the time.
Right.
Most of the time, I'll say.
Right.
Again, depending on the individual. And I love footwork. It's so important. It gets you out of a lot of problems. Now, obviously, you're limited if you're in the jungle, and you're limited if it's
Right.
icy. It's okay. You just understand that. Even if it's icy, you learn how to move on the ground. That's what I liked about Pa Herman Sawanda when we had him as an instructor. He taught me so much to do on the ground and how to counter BJJ and counter this and counter a boxer. And
Yeah.
I thought, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah. Oh, the two of you are such a remarkable resource for our community here, having trained with so many high-level teachers and had access to so much knowledge and have accumulated so much knowledge, and then you're actively passing it on to everyone else. That's what it's about, and we really have in the both of you a really significant resource here in Southeast Michigan. So I mean, barely scratch the tip of the iceberg here with this conversation, but just want to make sure we're respectful for your time and not talking for 4 hours straight. But so you've got events wise, you've got Inosanto coming in May here to Metro Detroit, and that's here in Canton, which is also the same city that your homeschool is located. If people want information on trying to come to your classes or booking a private lesson or seeing Guru Dan, what would be the best way to go about that?
Email would probably be the best.
Okay.
That way Lynda can monitor it too.
Okay.
And send responses. And our email address is AMARTS, Attributive Martial Arts,
Okay.
at sbcglobal.net.
Okay, and we'll put that, it's probably written here right now on your screen, and we'll put it in the show notes underneath. Is that the website, or is it?
Yeah, it's attributivemartialarts.com.
.com. Okay, so that has schedule and stuff on it, I'm assuming?
It's got the schedule. Right?
Okay, so you can at least go on there, check out what the weekly lineup is. I couldn't possibly begin to suggest two people more to anybody who's whether you're a new practitioner like I was when I first met these two amazing people, or in particular, I think if you're an advanced practitioner or an advanced person from a different style, and you've got some foundation and an open mind, and you are wanting to expand your knowledge base and try to understand how, I mean, you're hearing Sifu Dave talk about using this versus that style. Boy, I think to seasoned martial artists, that's something that should really, spark something of interest, or, stoke that passion a little bit. So I would definitely recommend checking them out here, or bringing them in for a workshop at your school. Again, I really, this means so much to me. I really do appreciate your time, both of you. Thank you, Simo. And thank you, everybody, for watching. If you got any questions or any follow-up questions for them or for us, ask in the comments below, and we will make sure to follow up accordingly. Thanks. Keep training.